Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a quick PowerPoint presentation that will show you the big picture. Then I'm going to do a demonstration to show you what we had talked about and how this comes together. And then we'll have a special offer at the end of the class if you want to continue your education. I will give you a heads up. This stuff changes constantly, and what you see here today may not be the same place or even available tomorrow. So you need to have a little patience with new technology, so to speak. So Power BI is the ultimate business client. This is the tool you use to connect to data and find out what's what about your business, whether things are going right or wrong, and maybe why they're going wrong if they are. I was told that the best way to start a presentation is with an icebreaker. So there you go. Here's what our training is going to look like this morning. Get started. The first thing that comes to my mind and the first thing that comes to Power BI is get data. We want to get data from multiple sources and pull them together into a data model. And a data model is maybe some Excel, some SQL Server, some text files. It is an abstraction of the data stores. It's not the data itself. So when you build a data model, you can manipulate it and not break the underlying data. Then we'll create visualizations, which you will recognize as charts and graphs. Once we've created visualizations, we will publish those into the cloud. There's two pieces at least to Power BI, one on the desktop, as we'll see, and one in the cloud. We'll create dashboards in the cloud service to share with users, and then we'll publish and share to individuals and give just the permissions we want just to particular individuals. So that's the steps we'll go through here today. Okay, just move this over here. So I'm looking at, on the left side of this picture, data stores, data sources. There's a blue cloud, an Azure cloud. There is an Explorer, Edge. Data can be scraped from tables in web pages, for example. That could be a source of data. I see Access there, Excel worksheets, SQL Server, and Power MailChimp down at the bottom, software as a service providers. So there's a lot of different data available for our company that relates to how well we're doing. It's hard to see all of that data in a big clunk. So we'll go into Power BI, and in the middle of the screen, this is what we're looking to find. These are Microsoft's definitions. I'm looking for an actionable insight. What does that mean? I'm looking at huge amounts of data as a human, and I can't even conceive of what it all means. I'm going to look at it through the eyes of Power BI, and it'll say, here's an insight. I noticed that this is probably not the best setting you could have for this particular process. Okay, then let's change it. Let's find what could be wrong, actionable insights, and try to fix it. Try to fix it for the future. From a single source of the truth. Microsoft is big on this. You could have multiple budget documents all over the place, but there's only one released budget document. And we want to focus in on Power BI as the place to go find the correct, up-to-date published information. So that's what we're working towards. Discover actionable insights from where the data resides. Okay, I decided I want to get into the Power BI game. There's 3 different versions. Desktop is free. Don't let the fact that desktop subscription is free make you think that it is a weak piece, that it's not very strong. It is the underlying basis for everything that you do. And you can do most analyses just using the free desktop subscription, but you can't share it with anybody. You can't collaborate on the data. This is local to your system. So you're going to have a desktop subscription. Then if you want to work with other people, you would pay $9.95 a month more for a professional subscription. And the fact is, your Office 365, M365 account probably has that subscription already taken care of. But let's assume that you don't. Small businesses would pay $9.95 per month per user for cloud-based collaboration. I can create analyses on my desktop, push them to the cloud, and share them with anyone else who has a professional subscription. So the difference is I'm being selfish and doing all the work on my computer with a desktop subscription. I decide to share it with the world, then I would upgrade to a professional subscription. Again, that's $9.95 a month. Whenever you get very serious about Power BI, there is a premium subscription. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the premium subscriptions. They're about $5,000 a month, and it involves a lot of dedicated resources built in. There is a concept called ETL that you want to be familiar with. Extract, transform, and load data. The reason ETL is so important is it's 75% of your expenses of your work in a Power BI initiative. So I see on the left-hand side of this slide, a CRM server, ERP servers, SQL servers, website traffic, data extracted from data stores or data sources. E, transform, data cleansing, deduplication, for example. Make the data cleaned up and relevant for what you're doing, and then load it into a data model. In this instance, it's in a data warehouse. Extract data from somewhere, lots of different places. And this sometimes is not just our information from our own company, but we may need records from the Weather Bureau to do an analysis of road accidents, maybe. So all the data in the world that could be relevant, we'll get our hands on. We'll extract it, transform it to be clean shaped, and then load it into a data model. Once it goes into a data warehouse, and I just want to give you a little background on the concept of a data warehouse. In a company, you'll usually have several divisions, and they will, by hook or crook try to keep their information for themselves. So each division in my company, I have 5 divisions. There are 5 different data stores. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's pull all that data, those data marts is the keyword. Let's pull all that divisional data into one place, a single source of the truth. And then when we query and make decisions, we can make decisions about everything in the whole company correctly. So that's the concept of a data warehouse. There is an analytical piece to this, OLAP, online analytical processing. The SQL Server that you have been experiencing is OLTP, online transaction processing. That's the everyday SQL Server way you've been approaching data. OLAP is a different concept, and again, is for analysis. Data mining means that is way too much data for me to even understand as a human. I'm going to use some data mining algorithms that are built in and say, can you tell me anything about this? Yes, this is what I see with my algorithm. And then we'll report out the results of our findings. ETL, extract, transform the data, load it, 75% of your budget. All right, Power BI Desktop, free. It's the ideal version to start with. You don't have to know anything. It's wizard driven a lot. Enables you to connect to 70 plus data sources. One of the things that is a challenge for humans interacting with large amounts of data is how do you connect to that data? We used to have a concept of a connection string. Microsoft has built in, you click here to connect to data sources or data stores, analyzing and publishing. Power BI Desktop is free, and if you haven't downloaded it, you should do that right away. There is a catch here in the last paragraph. It's ideal for small business owners and individual professionals. So this is where we get started, and this assumes that you don't have the premium $5,000 subscription. There is a limit with Power BI Desktop, the free version. You can have 1 gigabyte of data in your data models. That's as big as they can get. If you go to Power BI Pro, $9.95 a month, then you are able to push your results, push your visualizations into the cloud. When you pay the $9.95 a month difference, you'll have 10 gigabytes of data size. So license for individual users. If you have 10 people in your company, then you need, and they want to work together, they want to share, collaborate, you need 10 licenses of Power BI Pro. Again, you're going to find that you probably already have that subscription by virtue of your M365, Office 365 subscription. $9.95 a month, collaboration. If you want to try it out, there's a free trial subscription for 60 days. But again, yeah, I think you probably already have the resources. We may decide at some point in time to implement Power BI Premium. Provides a dedicated unit of capacity. This means that instead of sharing resources with other users, you're going to have dedicated servers, dedicated systems just for your company, dedicated capacity, up to 50 gigabytes, and you can store 100 terabytes of data to underline just how huge this can be. 100 terabytes is a huge amount of data. So virtually, when I think about Power BI Premium, I think there are no anything to hold you back. That this is as big as you need, and you can always increase the size of your resources. 3 sizes of premium capacity. There are some large organizations that use it, 5,000 a month, and you can imagine. I want to talk briefly about paginated reports. Before we focused on the web and web reporting, we used to print out huge amounts of paper reports, page after page after page, with headers and footers. This has come back again in Power BI Premium. We can create paginated reports with multiple rows, thousands of lines, 50 pages, for example, reports. And then with Report Server, we can deliver them to users in the middle of the night to their email, for example. So paginated reports is a piece of Power BI Premium Report Server. You may have experience in the past with SSRS, SQL Server Reporting Services, and that's what this is, the latest version. So here's a recap of what it costs to play the game. $9.95 per user for Pro, $5,000 for per capacity Premium. And there is a new license per user. So if you want to have 1 or 2 individuals have additional functionality, but you don't want to go to the $5,000 route, then you can pick what I would think of as a mid-tier user, $20 per month. It includes everything in Power BI Pro, and you can use a credit card for that. So this means that it's another $10 a month, basically, on top of it, the Power BI Pro user. Okay, Power BI Pro, what is the work we're going to do? We're going to create visualizations. Visualizations being graphics, charts from data sets. What is a data set? It's a set of data. I will go into a data store, like an Excel worksheet, for example, and get particular pieces out, not everything, and say, this is my data set. This is the relevant data for the reporting that I'm doing. Then we will take those visualizations from reports. A report is a multi-page document with visualizations brought forward. When we have reports, and again, they're multi-page, lots of documents, lots of graphs, lots of charts, we may want to focus down by using a dashboard, an executive dashboard, I think of it. Key performance indicators. I want to make an object that is shared with individuals who don't want to look at all the huge amount of data. They just want to know, how are we doing? Show me red, green, and yellow lights on a traffic signal, for example. If we're not doing so well, turn the signal yellow. If we're doing poorly, turn the signal red. so executives can just glance at the dashboard. The dashboards are limited to one page, so that gives you an idea of the concept of focusing multiple reports elements into dashboards. So we're going to create reports in Power BI Desktop. That's the free version. That's how we get started. Then when we have reports sufficient to go to work with, we'll publish them to the quote Power BI service. You're going to become familiar with Power BI in two places: on the local system and in the cloud. Power BI in the cloud is known as the Power BI service. We'll share elements of those reports in dashboards. Then end users will come to the dashboard. They can use their desktop PC, they can use a tablet, or Power BI mobile. On the right-hand side of the screen, this shows different views of a particular entity. I see the desktop, I see the Power BI service. One of the things that is going on is that we're creating web pages. We're doing HTML with the graphical user interface on the front end. One of the things that is a challenge is to make mobile representations of the data look correct on I have a question here. Hold on till the end and we'll have time for questions if you would. I don't want to miss anything. End users don't need Pro to see the dashboard. You can't publish a dashboard unless you have the Pro version. If you want to see it, then you have to have access to it. I would think that everybody is going to need Pro for what it's worth. Okay, so reports are created in Power BI Desktop. That's the free version you're using. Then they're published to the cloud service and shared. And again, when you use the user interface to create these reports, they are configured to look correctly on different screens. This is the process we're going to go through. On the left-hand side are data stores, data sources. Where do we get data? We'll go to the Power BI Desktop and say, do you have a connector for a SQL Server database? Yes. Do you have a connector for an Excel? Yes. How about an Oracle database? Yes. Those are three different programs, but the data model can pull together information from multiple, excuse me, multiple sources into one model for reporting. So I'll then publish those reports into the Power BI service, into the cloud, and make those resources available to end users securely in the Power BI service. So there's a little thing you want to be aware of. Excuse me. If you're going to have a hybrid installation where some of your data is in the cloud and some of your data is on premise, you have to employ a data gateway. The good news is you can have access to data that's in your server closet locally and in the cloud, but it does require a data gateway. And when it comes time to have one, when you try to make those connections, excuse me, then you'll be prompted, click here, install the data gateway. It's a seamless process. The data gateway can be installed as just one user version, which is your access alone, or you could install the gateway for all users in the company. This is again for hybrid installations where you work both in the cloud and on premise together at the same time seamlessly. Well, whenever we start Power BI, the first step is get data, get data, get data, get data. You'll be prompted several different ways. We have to have data to get started. And here are some shortcuts. Go to Excel and get some data. Go to SQL Server and get some data. These are connectors. The connection strings, the permissions, all the things that are required are inside these connectors. Paste data into a blank table, and the sample data sets are huge, huge amounts of data. Get data from another source. Show me a connector for an Oracle database, for example, and we'll see this in our demonstration. Import data from Excel. Okay. If you would just hold on to your questions till the end, we'll get to them. Okay, so import data from Excel. That's a good place to get started. There's some questions that we need to answer before we get too far. Do you want to import that data? Go find a huge amount of data and bring it into my system, import it. Well, that means that the data is local and we can work on it, but it also means the data is out of date potentially. As there are changes in the data service, then we won't have the up-to-date versions. If we select direct query, what we're telling Power BI is, look, leave the data where it is, connect to it where it is, don't import it, don't bring it across the wire, don't worry about security, don't worry about overwhelming your systems. And the key here is if the data is not continually changing, if it's pretty static, we could say, I want to look at the data as the latest version with a schedule refresh. So I'll say, I want the data to be updated every hour, for example. Automatically query for new data at a predefined cadence, every hour, every day, every week. Go get the latest data, but don't bring in the entire data set, the entire database. So auto refresh is a good idea. There are a couple of different ways we can trigger an auto refresh: fixed interval and change detection. Fixed interval says, I want you to refresh the visuals, the pictures on the report page every second, every 5 minutes. This would trigger whether there were any changes or not. Change detection says, you created a new visualization. I want to make my changes, my updates as things change. Refresh on detecting changes in the data. So again, the point is, I want auto refresh to tell me what is the latest version of that data on the data store. Don't bring in all those change records, just show me the results in my data model. Okay, import, go get data. I'm looking at the last sentence of the first paragraph. You must refresh the data. Well, refreshing is good, which imports the full data set again. That's not so good. If we constantly bring in the whole data set over and over and over, we're going to use a whole lot of resources we don't need to. If direct query is supported, then we're looking at the data in situ where it lives, and we're not bringing it across the wire. We're not loading it into our model. So things are going to be much more up to date and quicker. So whenever you connect, here is the connection string dialog box. What's the name of the SQL server? If you know a database is on that server, give me the name, but you don't have to. What's important is in the red box. Do you want to import all that data, or do you want to just make a connection to it with direct query? You make the decision up front. There are several views in Power BI. Report view is where you do your work. This is where you make your visualizations. I'm looking at the menu bar, get data. Power BI is big on you locating, pointing it to data stores. So the report view is where you create visualizations. Here is a pie chart, user ID, what percentage. That is one view you'll use in your processes. There's another piece of this called Power Query Editor. And in the data view, you're going to see where you have the ability to transform. We'll export data from data stores into the data model. And here's an example of Power Query Editor. And if you're familiar with Power Pivot add-in for Excel, that's what this is equivalent to. So basically, this is where we do the transformation. You can change data types on the columns. You can delete columns. You can create new columns. I see some code there, equal table.transform. We're going to use some tools, one being DAX, data analysis expressions. This is a two-dimensional tabular model querying language that you will become familiar with. It's a Microsoft expression language. If you've used Excel Power Pivot, you've done functions in Excel. And just as an aside, and this is in the class that we'll talk about at the end of the day, the work that you do with the graphical user interface is changed into low-level language, high-level language, however you see it, M code, M language. Another view is a relationship view. And I'm going to say, show me this view, the model view. And as I have imported tables, I see table 1, basic info, and 401k. These are the 3 tables I have exported into my data model. And they were automatically joined because they all have the user ID field for a join. So Power BI does a lot of things for you that you don't realize. So this is just another way of looking at the picture. I have 3 tables joined together that I can pull information from. Okay, in my report, I'm going to create visualizations. All I have to do is, in this instance, drag a column. Here is the state column onto the canvas, and my visualization is created. I may not like the way it looks. There are lots of visualizations that come out of the box, so to speak. If you don't have enough visualizations, if there's something you want differently, I'm looking at the second paragraph, show me all visuals, show me organizational visuals. You may have local developers who can create custom visualizations for your company and put them in this share, or you can go to AppSource and download other visualizations that people have contributed to Power BI. So you're not limited to just the visualizations that come in Power BI. Once I've created reports, I can now create dashboards, and dashboards are what I use in the cloud to share a focused set of information. Remember, a report, which you can share, is multiple pages, but that's a lot of stuff to wade through. If I create a report dashboard, a report driven dashboard, then I'm focusing down on just the things that are important. Whenever we open up Power BI, this is the cloud service Power BI. I will remind you that there's two versions of this. There is the cloud version, there is the on-prem version. As soon as you go to the cloud, it says, up, get data. Where would we get this data? From my organization or from services, from MailChimp, for example. I could create new files and databases here in the cloud. These are interactive visualizations. When you put visualizations on a dashboard from a report, then if they're joined together, you can click on, in this instance, the big orange bar, and it will show you that by month. So two pieces of this picture, on-prem, published to in the cloud. In the cloud, there is a concept called a workspace. I want to share information with you. I want to make sure that I have a Power BI Pro subscription so I can share. And I want to make sure that you have a Power BI subscription so that you can see my share of the things I'm making available for you. We're doing this in the cloud. And in order for us to be on the same page, so to speak, I'll say, I'm going to create a workspace for this project. You can have multiple workspaces. So end users will know where are we going to get the data. Once we have created a workspace, we can put data sets, visualizations in that workspace. So we may have a workspace for the engineering project one, for the shipment project one, and I'll show you how to create a workspace in just a few minutes. I'm going to pin a report element, a visualization from a report to a dashboard. And once I do that, I can share that dashboard with individuals. I may want to be even more sophisticated, and this is a little far out for beginners, is I can deploy a collection of dashboards and reports by putting them into an app. So I'll create an app. What do you want to call it? What's the description? when I create an app, I will say, you know, this app should have this data, should have this report, should have these dashboards. And when I pull all those elements together, then I share them with an individual. There is one file, a PBIX file created by Power Desktop. It's got all the queries, it's got all the data models in it, all the visualizations, everything about this whole process, this whole project is in a PBIX file. What does this mean? If I have a huge amount of resources that I want to share with you, I can give you the PBIX file and you've got all the data, you've got all the reports, and you can create your own reports and visualizations. This is Office XML format. If you want to see what's inside a PBIX document, then you change the file extension to zip, and you're probably familiar with that. Okay, so in the way of review, this is what we're going to do. We'll create the data model from data sources. Then when we have the data model, we'll make reports from it locally, desktop. We'll push those reports to the cloud service. We'll make dashboards from elements in the reports. We'll give permission to share the dashboards, and maybe we'll decide to create and share apps. Whenever you have finished with your work and everything is current, you may want to archive the PBIX file, make a copy of it somewhere off the system in case you might need to either share it or log back into it. Okay, I've got some questions here. Let's see if we can answer a few. Can that gateway data source be OneDrive? That, I think you're misunderstanding. The gateway doesn't have anything to do with OneDrive. It means I have a connection from the cloud services into the local resources. I have a SQL Server database in the cloud, and I have a SQL Server database on premise. In order to have them work together. Okay. Can you connect to a geo database? Let me see something here. I'm going to start up Power BI Desktop. And I think if I show you this on the screen, it'll probably answer a lot of the questions that you have. This is the free version. This is the desktop version. This is where you do your work. So I've got a clean slate here. And this says, get data, get data, get data. Okay. Get data from Excel, good. SQL Server, good. Another source. Well, I've got data connectors for Excel, text, JSON, Oracle, DB2, IBM, Postgres, Teradata, SAP, Amazon Redshift, Snowflake, Azure SQL databases, Azure Blob Storage, wow. Power BI data sets, So if we have data sets built and saved, we can use them as data resources exchange. You can see there are a lot of connectors here. So you don't have to know anything. You just have to say, show me a data type. Okay, so I want Excel data. I'm going to click the connect button at the bottom of the screen. And I'm going to select Informer data. That's an Excel data source. I want you to write this down in your short-term, long-term memory. A lot of times you'll have data in an Excel workbook, and when you go to bring it into Power BI, it says there's no such thing. There's no data out there. Sure there is, I can see it. What you have to do is configure the data range as a table. Put your cursor into the data range, Control T, and now then you'll be able to see table 1. I see a preview of it. This is what it looks like. It's got first name, last name, annual salary, and gender. You know, I don't think that it is appropriate for this. I'm going to transform the data. And I'm going to delete the gender column. Okay. So, yes, I want to change my. All right. Pending changes haven't been applied. Still loading, sorry. So what we've learned here is there are pre-made connectors for about every kind of data source you would have in your environment. Okay, so I'm looking at table 1 over on the right-hand side. Annual salary, first name, last name, user ID. I want some more data. I'm going to get data. And that'll be Excel again. And source data. So now then I have 2 tables in my data model. One has been transformed. Okay, so which tables do you want? 401k and basic info. Load that into the data model. So I'm building a data model with disparate data sources. So far, I've put in 2 different Excel documents. I'm going to get data one more time to build my model. And I think this time I'll say, show me databases, show me SQL Server databases, connect. Okay, what's the server? Here's my SQL Server name. Good. I want education level. So now then I have 3 different data stores referenced, 2 Excel worksheets that exist somewhere and a SQL Server database. I'm going to look at the model view, and here are the tables that I've ended up with. Notice, because these tables all have a common field, the user ID column, they're all automatically joined in a default one-to-many relationship. So the model shows you the big picture. Okay. Back to the construction layer. What am I going to put in here? I want first name, last name in this visualization, and annual salary. All right, so here is a report visualization. Different individuals and their annual salary. So that is a good way to look at data, but I could say, I wonder how that would look as a pie chart. Oh, how's that? Well, the table looked better. I can drag information onto the screen, and it will determine what's the best format for that information automatically. So annual salary, I don't know that that should be a chart. So annual salary is good by education level. So I can see that bachelor's degree, PhD, salary is higher by how much education you have, which makes sense. This is a report. I see at the bottom of the page, page 1, I could have multiple page reports. I'm going to now click on publish. Do you want to save your changes? Yes. Okay. And I'm using a default workspace, my built-in workspace. I could have multiple workspaces, but if you don't create a custom workspace, it'll use your default. Publishing to Power BI. This is publishing to Power BI in the cloud. Okay. Okay, I'm now on the cloud side. I have changed from the desktop environment to the Power BI service. I can create new reports. Here's my default workspace. So I have a report here and I have a data set that was published. What does that report look like? Okay, so what I want to do is I want to share this with someone. I'm going to click the pin to pin the visual to a new dashboard. Okay. So this says this is annual salary by first name and last name. And at the bottom of the left of the screen, I see there is only this one page. So I'm going to say I've done my work. I've got the data, built the data model. I've built visualizations in reports. I've pinned the report elements to a dashboard. And now the point of all this is so I can share it. Who am I going to share it with? And do I want to allow them to share this themselves or not? Probably not. I want this to be secure. Build content. Can they use the data store? Send an email notification. So I have given permission to somebody in my domain. I could send a hyperlink. All right, so there's the big picture. Here are my workspaces. Here's my dedicated workspace. These are the things that are inside it. So I have an executive dashboard that looks like that. So there's the big picture all pulled together. And I know that is a lot of information. There is a 4-day class, DA 100, which is where this material came from. And in 1 hour, we don't have time to do everything in the world. But we've got a special offer, 60% off this class in the December 7th and 13th deliveries. If you go to salesdirectionstraining.com, you can use Power 60 and get a 60% discount off the 4-day class. And you will do all the things that we've done. One of the benefits of the classes that we teach is you're going to get a subscription to something called Labs on Demand, a 6 months subscription. So you'll have your own environment for Power BI, you'll have your own desktop, you'll have all the data. So you can practice and try things out that you might not be able to do at work or might not want to. So sales@directionstraining.com, that would be your next step. 60% off. The class is DA 100, December 7th and 13th. We teach this a lot. Okay, so let me take a quick look at the chat here. Well, thank you for the 60% is really a great Christmas gift. Okay. Lisa's saying that most GS servers have a SQL. Yes, you would use the SQL server as the source, and the SQL server has a data type of latitude, longitude. The connection that you're going to make to is SQL Server. Okay, great overview, good. How about some more questions? Do we have any?
We can stay on for a few more minutes if anyone has some lingering questions. Thank you very much, Gary, and thank you everyone for joining us, and we hope to see you next time. As I mentioned, we'll stay on a couple more minutes for you guys if anyone has some last minute questions, but thank you and have a great rest of your day.
Lisa Webb says, will you expand on the 1 gigabyte data size? If you have the free version and you are building a data model, the biggest size you can make is 1 gigabyte. That's the limitation. If you have Power BI Pro, it's 10 times that. So the more resources you consume, the more that it costs. 10 gigabyte with Pro, good. Okay, answer geodatabase. I think we answered that. That is a SQL server that is hosting columns that are latitude, longitude columns. Any other Q&A? Well, wonderful. Thank you for coming. I'm going to hang around for a while and watch the chat in case you do have a question. Otherwise, I'll see you in the classes in December. If reporting on data is not your primary function, this is not for you. This is dedicated reporting on data.